Hello guys, welcome back in Goku Manhwa channel. Let's continue. While they were hugging in front of the car, something shifted between Shi Yang and Shui, something slow, quiet, and almost impossible to explain. It felt like a sudden awareness of each other settling deep in their bodies, a clock sensation that made their breaths change without either of them meaning to. The hug had started normally, but the longer they stayed in it, the more the air around them thickened with unspoken tension. Shuya felt her heartbeat rising, and in her mind, she wondered what he was thinking. The thought slipped in before she could stop it. She wondered if he was going to kiss her. The idea made her chest tighten, and without even realizing it, she leaned in just a little more. He did too, their bodies drawing closer as if pulled by an invisible thread. Even through the closeness, her mind raced. She could see people walking around, cars passing, voices blending into the background. There were so many people around, she reminded herself, heat rising to her cheeks. This guy's pushiness was getting out of hand, she thought. Not in a bad way, but in a way that made her nervous, flustered, and completely unsure what to do next. And yet, despite all that, they kept moving in. Shi Yang lifted his hands and placed them gently on her cheeks. The warmth of his palms made her freeze. Her breath caught. Everything she had been imagining suddenly felt too real, too close. But instead of leaning in the way she expected, he looked directly at her face, his eyes steady, and said that she was missing an earring. For a moment, she couldn't even process the words. Her mind had been prepared for something entirely different, and the sudden shift made her heart stumble. Then he spoke again, asking if she thought he was going to kiss her. Her embarrassment hit instantly. It washed across her face in a wave of heat. She didn't know what to do, but she managed to say that even if she did think that, so what? Her voice was small, but the words slipped out anyway. Shi Yang watched her closely, and she could sense something unspoken in his gaze. In his mind, he wondered why she looked so used to this kind of moment. Had she often done things like this with her ex? The thought flickered through him before he pushed it away. Still looking into her eyes, he said he didn't have the habit of kissing in public. His voice was calm, controlled, almost teasing in how steady it stayed while she was completely flustered. Then, with slow, careful movements, he took the earring and placed it back on her ear. He was close enough that she could feel his breath, close enough that her heart was pounding again for a completely different reason. She whispered for him to be gentle, and he continued fixing the earring with quiet focus, their closeness creating a tension that neither of them tried to escape. Shi Yang asked her softly if she was ticklish there, the question slipping out naturally while his hand was still near her ear. Shuyu felt a tiny shiver run through her, but she brushed it off quickly. She straightened up and said it was fine, and told him they should go, trying to regain her calm after the closeness. Once her earring was placed properly, she stepped back a little, though her heartbeat hadn't settled yet. Later in the evening, after everything that had happened earlier, they ended up going for a walk anyway. She thought about it in her mind as they moved side by side, remembering how she had not planned any of this, yet somehow it all unfolded on its own. Their shadows stretched out in front of them under the fading sunlight, long, soft, overlapping in some parts but still showing a small distance between them. It reminded her of the space they kept, and how it was slowly closing without them even trying. She felt something shift inside her as they walked. The warm evening light made everything look different, clearer. In that moment, she thought to herself that he finally felt real to her again. After everything, after all the time apart and all the doubt she had carried, he was here. He had come back, and now he was standing right beside her, not as a memory or a hope, but as someone she could see and reach out to. Shi Yang looked toward her and called out to her gently, lifting his hand slightly, almost inviting her to hold it. He didn't force it, he didn't pull her, he simply offered. That small gesture made her chuckle quietly, her cheeks warming as she blushed. She thought he was being unusually generous, almost shy, and it felt sweet. He was close enough that she could touch him if she wanted, close enough that the air between them felt warmer. They moved a little closer until their arms brushed, and then they began walking side by side with a new softness between them. He looked at her, and she met his gaze with a mix of love, hope, and something she couldn't fully name. It felt warm, steady, something real in a way that surprised her. As they continued walking through the city, the sky deepened into shades of gold and orange. The sunset spread across the horizon, casting a glow on the streets, the buildings, and the two of them. It felt like the best walk they had taken in a long time, quiet and slow, with everything around them falling into place. Together, they watched the sunset, A view so beautiful that it felt like the whole evening had been leading up to that single moment. Shuyi ran ahead toward the sunset spot, her steps light, almost excited, like she wanted to reach the perfect place before the light changed. The sky was glowing orange and pink, and the warmth of the colors reflected in his eyes when she finally turned to look back at him. As soon as she caught his gaze, she walked up to him and quietly grabbed his hand, her fingers wrapping around his with a gentle certainty. He felt the pressure of her hand and looked down at their joined fingers, then up at her face. He said it was worth it, the moment, everything, and she looked back at him, trying to read the sincerity behind his words. She asked him softly, almost unsure, and repeated herself again, as if trying to confirm what he meant. He said her name, Shuyi, in that familiar tone, and she paused, waiting for what he would say next. She looked straight at him, and he answered clearly, saying she was worth everything. The words were simple, but the way he said them made the air between them soften. They continued walking until they found a bench nearby and sat down, the sunset stretching out in front of them like a quiet painting. As they settled, Shuya told him they couldn't go on a date tomorrow. She said she was going to accompany Xiaoya to an art exhibition. Shi Yang raised an eyebrow almost immediately, and she could already sense the questions coming. He asked what they were plotting in secret, sounding annoyed but curious at the same time. His next line hit her harder. He asked if he really looked uncultured and tasteless to her. She straightened up, surprised that he would twist it that way. Before she could calm herself, her frustration burst out. She yelled, asking if he thought they were up to something suspicious simply because she and Xiaoya were going to an art exhibition together. She added quickly that Xiaoya might have majored in art appreciation, but she knew exactly how much Xiaoya actually understood. It was her way of defending herself, but the irritation in her voice made the moment feel heavier. Shi Yang didn't back down. He leaned slightly toward her and told her to say it. What were they up to? He asked again, more firmly this time. His tone made it clear he wasn't going to drop the topic. Shuya realized, in that single moment, that he had seen through everything too quickly. With just a few words, he had already understood there was more to the story. There was no way to hide anything from him. Finally, she admitted that actually, Xiaoya wanted to meet a friend of hers, and that was why she asked Shuya to arrange something. Shi Yang's expression sharpened as soon as she said it. He asked which friend. His voice was steady, but she could tell he wasn't going to let it slide until she answered. Shuyi hesitated for a moment before answering him. When he asked if it was a guy, she quietly said yes. The moment the word left her mouth, she saw something shift in Shi Yang's expression, a flicker of something sharp behind his usually calm eyes. He asked immediately if it was the same guy who took calligraphy classes with her when they were kids, the one she once went on a blind date with. She turned to him in shock, almost offended, because she hadn't expected him to bring that up so accurately. Blind date? The way he said it made her feel suddenly older, like he had pulled a forgotten memory into the present without warning. She told him he sounded old-fashioned. He didn't deny it. He simply said that yes, he was old-fashioned. She looked at him directly and added that he was also petty. For a moment, he didn't respond. He just looked at her, his expression unreadable, as if he was deciding how to take her words. Then he repeated it quietly, asking if she really thought he was petty. The confusion on her face softened. She wasn't sure why he looked almost hurt, or if it was something else entirely. He continued before she could figure it out. He said that if he truly were petty, then their story could have ended long ago, and that would have secured him, meaning he would have been done, finished, letting everything end easily. But he didn't. He stayed. He tried. And that itself said everything. After that, he told her she was wrong. He wasn't petty. In fact, he had been more generous with her than she ever expected him to be. The closeness between them shifted a little, becoming gentler. She admitted softly that she was wrong, letting the truth sit between them. But he shook his head and said he wasn't that generous either, not in the way she thought. There was honesty in his voice, and it settled into her heart heavier than she expected. In her mind, she told herself she wanted to be honest too. She didn't want to lie to him ever again. Not about small things, not about important things, nothing. Shi Yang then asked her something else, if she ever thought about the fact that the guy Xiaoya wanted to meet was much older than her niece. Shuya shrugged slightly and asked if that bothered him at all. He said it didn't. Even if the man was 10 years older, he was still a generation below him, he said calmly. She blinked, thinking about it. When she considered the way he phrased it, she had to admit it made sense in his strange, slightly arrogant logic. She agreed quietly. Then, while their hands were still loosely held together, she added something from her heart. She said she would like it if he went with her tomorrow. She wanted to do better. She wanted to fix the regrets that had gathered between them over the years, regrets that never fully disappeared. She wanted to set things right. Her sincerity surprised him. He looked at her, impressed, really impressed in a way he didn't bother to hide. She repeated herself softly, tomorrow, they should go together. And in that moment, both of them felt a quiet happiness settle in. Something between them eased, strengthened, and moved one step closer to what they both wished for.